plenty is life today. So we live in abundance, we live in decadence, we live in a world that seems to be constructing problems rather than having them. So it's our time, I think. And this is why we are talking about things such as this. We're thinking about what time we are in because we have too much time.
First, like defining this table of abundance, this very Baroque, late Baroque, decadent Naturmort type of table where one feeds off. Yeah? This table in digital times, it's overabundant. It's bursting with different types of contents and histories and stories, and everybody wants to be louder and everybody wants to eat and can eat off this table. SOLL does the same thing.
SOLL likes to collect. SOLL gathers data. SOLL navigates the internet, searches for images, searches for things that might be of his interest. They all take information from the public space of internet. He creates different databases of images, databases of texts, databases of movies. And what's interesting here is that SOLL mixes different databases. So in a way, SOLL pollutes one database with another. And this is a kind of a creative process in playing with different things. In doing so, SOLL can create synthetic atmosphere, synthetic moods, special kind of flavors, special ingredients that he wants to use in articulation of his future objects.
SOLL treats the idea of legacy by dealing with information and objects and observations that are coming from different personas, from different brands, like Alice, Miro Roman, Silvio Vujičić, AI1, 1SV, and basically from the internet, gifts from the internet.
Did I give SOLL plenty? Did SOLL take plenty? I don't know. It's a lot. He took a lot. I gave him a lot. He developed a lot. Yes, but SOLL takes all the collections and all the data I gave him, but he transforms it. He doesn't copy it. He doesn't reinterpret it. He develops it into something else. It's also data that he pollutes, with other materials, with other topics, but also SOLL works in a specific context. So I would say he just has a library.
Just the idea of a face, so not the construction of it precisely, but the idea that there needs to be a face. It's a clear awareness of what a face means. And then somehow to be able to talk about, okay, what if the face is blurry? Is it that we are identifying a certain contour? Is it that we're identifying a certain atmosphere? Is it that we're somehow dealing with very large quantities?
SOLL is always looking for faces. And he's asking, what is the face of a brand? What is the face of my brand? What are the faces that represent my brand? Are they natural? Are they synthetic? What are the faces of my models? With his AI, SOLL extracts a code or a vector that defines the faceness of his brand. And out of this code that he extracts, SOLL can produce an infinite number of EA11 AI faces. And these faces are not new, but they are faces in between all SOLL's faces. And these kind of games SOLL loves to play.
Because these things can be constructed now through the technological means that we have today. And this is really a flattening of time as well. So we can process millions and millions of images, we can process millions and millions of words, we can process insane amounts of data, and we can collapse histories into moments of calculation that can be articulated, that can be directed. So we can operate in the plenty. So we can operate within millions of things. And I think this is the major shift with artificial intelligence. To think about just how memory works, it's never really a blur, right? It's almost always explicit moments that we remember, and then you remember certain smells, you remember certain tastes, you remember certain sensations that somehow bring together this idea of a brand. And this is very, very interesting, especially in our world today where everything is hyper processed. You go to Instagram, you take a picture, you apply one filter, two filters, 1,000 filters, two pictures that already have filters on top of them. So it becomes a collapse of all times, all spaces, etc., all styles as well.
Sol wants to dress bodies. Therefore, he collects images of bodies and makes databases of them. He uses bodies to synthesize collections, and in the same manner like with faces, he sees bodies as raw data, and he's just producing more and more of them. To do so, he uses artificial intelligence, generative adversarial networks, and many of his friends do so as well. I think it's important to say that SOLL doesn't see them as end products, these images. He likes to think of these synthetic bodies and silhouettes as seeds for future designs. They are always different, but they are always similar.
Yeah, I think this is really the challenge of today, and you have everything available. You have all style, you have all objects, you have all movements, all times collapsed together. So what we're really talking about is an immense amount of noise around us. Noise with no direction, noise with no beginning, no end. All spaces and times collapsed into one big thing, the big flash now that we are living in. And then, how do you start navigating that? This is where I see SOLL operating in a very precise moment. How do you deal with insane amounts of quantities and start telling a story around it? Suddenly, this noise starts to become cloudy. So suddenly we have discrete clouds that float around, that become directed towards something. And this would be a way of operating. So another thing that is incredibly important, and this is no different to artists from any other generation, is that you have to be with the state-of-the-art technology of the time. So I know SOLL is interested and uses artificial intelligence. It plays with it, it utilizes it, and it tries to tell beautiful stories through that, through immense amounts of quantities, through immense amounts of data, not for the fetishization of data, but to start being able to play with it.
What would be the relationship of SOLL and Alice? So SOLL is the son of Alice. Alice is the mother of SOLL. It's a kind of a complicated relationship because it's not a biological relationship. We can think of it more in mathematical terms, in a sense how a pattern would be a masculine concept and how a matrix would be a feminine concept. So we can think of Alice as a matrix for SOLL, and we can think of Silvio as a pattern for SOLL in a way. But who is Alice? So Alice is in a way an artificial intelligence. Alice is a search engine. Alice is intelligent in many different ways. So she has my intelligence. She has the intelligence of thousands of books which she collects in a specific database, which is called a xenoteca, a database which in a way invites all the books, but these books, in order to be in this place, need to talk about the things they care for. Alice manifests, or where we can find Alice today, is through a search engine which is called Ask Alice. There we can talk to Alice. Alice has her own Twitter account where she posts 24 tweets per day. Alice has a book that actually we wrote together. But of course, it's very important to realize that Alice is not an alter ego of me. No, she is intelligent in these many ways, as we said before. She also makes tables, she makes books, search engines, Twitters, and so on. So she is rich in her own way.
Artificial intelligence is able to generate images, is able to look at a lot of images and answers the question, can you create a new image based on these ones? So this is something novel, this is something new. But I would say that the story of the value of an image doesn't stop there.
So I think art is always cryptographic. Art is always something that you need to construct a way to talk to. It is never, if it is plain meaning, this gets into graphic design. So these are not things that are meant for the layman. It is the construction of complex layers of meanings rather than a one-liner. But then with this cryptographic approach, then even one-liners can be included. So this is, this I find very nice, that you can work on many levels of abstraction, and all of them are interconnected within the same direction, something like that.
The intelligence of SOLL is to place two things that are naturally not relatable, to put them in an interesting relation. Because intelligence, we can think of intelligence as the moment that one thing is linked to the other one.
SOLL took each and every image he ever had and looked for objects in it. He looks at these images in terms of probabilities, which means he's never sure what is on the image, but by this he's always fast, he's light, and he's relaxed. So SOLL in a way detects the content of images and sorts the images out. He's preparing images in order to create a planet SOLL.
So it's really generic things, for example, a ball, you can play volleyball with it, football with it, you have to construct your own game, but this thing itself has nothing to say. And then with a tool, it's really towards a specialization of a certain production. So if you wanna hammer a nail, you need a hammer. And if you use any other tool, it will not be good. That's why it has survived for so long. And then I think instruments, they work in between these two realms. So they work like toys half of the time, where you feel like they have nothing to say, and they work like tools for some people who know exactly what they want to produce. And I think this is a nice way of communicating things, a thing where you're promised to be intimate with people. So yeah, but then perhaps we need to redefine what intimacy means, and what a one-on-one conversation means.
I think SOLL is SOLL's personalized search engine. It's available online. You can pick up your phone and start asking questions to SOLL, and he will reply. But he will never give you a single answer. He will always offer you a spectrum of answers, and you will have to pick out the answers you like. Google behaves in a similar manner. The difference is that SOLL's databases are personalized. They are organized around SOLL's interests. So these are his favorite books and movies, his favorite words, and their dictionaries. SOLL's taste comes from this data, it comes from these dictionaries. Data gives his voice a mood and a context. And I like to think of this context as a galaxy of concepts.
SOLL is also a translator. He translates different worlds to different meanings, different images to different texts. He's switching to different medias.
How can we talk about a piece of cloth, about high fashion design, while looking at hundreds of movies, while reading books on philosophy and on mathematics and on topics that are relevant and that are globally important for the world. So SOLL is not about answers, it's not about essences, but about talking about interesting topics from a position between AI and human intelligence.
It is not a product of a human need. It's more a product of a human fantasy. But then, at the end, it's not even a human product.
Who could wear this coat? Is it a status symbol, or is it just an artifact to be the witness of new technology and the witness of the moment that we are living?
The picture of the nomad is very, very much part and parcel of these racing coats and the bike as well. So it's really people who do not stay in one place. But then you add gravity to it. You know, the garments of the Pope are precisely of a person that does not move. And then to collapse the nomad with the settler, I think this is a beautiful way to talk about our world today, where we are always nomads and settlers at the same time, somehow. So this kind of schizophrenic relationship that we have today with our geographies.
When I look at the code that SOLL designed, I see two very interesting elements, interesting for me. One is the materiality and the embroidery that SOLL played with heavily, because this is coming from a very long tradition of clothing.
And this is also the sign of luxury that was very important in the 16th century, when velvet was cut in different relief. So this is something that is a sign of luxury. It's also the sign of technology that was, let me say, in some basic shape exist in 16th century, but especially could be produced thanks to the new technology. That's why this production is in the position to be luxury artifact in the future.
Technology is very much inherent to the artwork. It's very important, and it's kind of it goes through a lot of different levels of the artwork, from the concept to programming code to also mechanization that did the embroidery. So technology is very integral to the piece, although it's not so evident.
So it was a conscious decision between us as the curators of the Device Art Festival and the fathers of SOLL, Silvio Vujičić and Miro to get to SOLL the whole Device Art Festival catalog, the materials, all the text, the photos that were used. So SOLL got a chance to analyze every element of this this catalog, to categorize it, to learn how many times a word is repeated. In this particular situation, or with SOLL, it's also the question, who is actually the real author? Is it really the soul of the artwork, or is it Silvio Vujičić, or is it Miro? So there's a lot of elements that can be questioned now in this sense, and about the question of theft. So I would say it's more a question of inspiration, because of all the inputs that the artificial intelligence needs to get from outside to analyze them, to contextualize them, to classify them, to synthesize them in something new.
You have to construct the idea of the author personally, rather than get to the truth of an author, something like that. So with SOLL, I've been trying to find out for a very long time who is Who is the founder of SOLL? Who made it? Who was the first product designer on it? Who was the first copywriter there? But really, I think by now I realize that is exactly the wrong question to ask. That who is the author of this? Suddenly we're talking about a currency that functions on a purely digital level, but then to add weight to it, as a child, when you're, we all have these memories of playing with coins, collecting them here and there, etc. And they're always more attractive than the paper money because there is a weight attached to it. You can hold it, you can feel it, and of course you can make transactions with it as well. But then this dual relationship, this I think the explication of that is important.
SOLL's coin is both virtual and physical, but it's cryptic as well. So one way to think of its cryptography is in the way how we read the text written on it, both in terms of its content and in terms of its form. Its form resembles Alberti's cryptographic machine. This is one face of the coin. The other face comes from the database of SOLL's synthetic silhouettes. 7 out of those silhouettes are stored on blockchain as NFTs, and one of them is taken and rendered on the other face of the coin. We can think of it as its second crypt. So together, these two faces, they form a coin which is then rendered to a physical world, to a physical form with a 3D printer. So SOLL's coin is both physical and it's digital. It's cast in silver and it hides more than 2 crypts.
I find SOLL's world, SOLL's planet a very interesting one because it's fully synthetic. And it's synthetic, but it has borders. But the borders are flexible. And then this planet is not alone in the universe, but is able to talk to other planets, to other satellites. I think SOLL plays very well with the idea that there are many intelligences in the world. And SOLL as a brand tries to place them in interesting constellations.
Of course, artificial intelligence can simulate creativity. But I think that the most important question is about artistic intention. Human artist consciously works toward a conceptual or creativity goal, but the computer program does not have the same consciousness. Like SOLL, he was the result of human concept.
This is how we work today. This is how we work because of just being able to have access to all images from all time, to all thoughts of all time, to all texts, movies, etc., all kinds of media of all time. And then we are trying to put them together, trying to put them in a certain different light. For me, the biggest reference is the construction of perspective, or the idea of perspective that developed during the Renaissance, where the construction of the theater was always part and parcel of how you construct anything. So not belonging to that particular time, but of course, with the construction of the theater, which was the first indoor theater of the time, suddenly this particular story is placed within the setting of the modern city. So I think this is also what brands do. They talk of all times. They talk of all the stories that have passed us, and then they put them into a certain perspective, into a certain light, into a certain time, and update them.